Rome's Via Salaria, the Salt Road, ran from the city northeast through the Sabine country toward the Adriatic coast. The name is plain Latin, the Road of Salt. Roman road builders did not assign a trunk highway to a garnish. Classical topography places the Via Salaria among the working routes that tied the capital to inland districts and the eastern seaboard. Imperial period road lists, including the Antonine itinerary, record stages on this corridor as ordinary travel and transport. Later historical geography and archaeological survey of the Italian peninsula reconstruct the same line as part of the state's engineered network, not a ceremonial path. Along it moved salt as bulk cargo, crystals for daily diet and for keeping food from rotting, rather than a rare spice carried in small loads. The mechanism is logistics, not luxury. Households, garrisons, and markets needed the mineral in weight and volume. Coastal salt works fed inland demand. Carters and traders hauled it on a road maintained for armies and commerce alike. Grain traffic shapes roads for the same reason. Salt traffic did too. Traders and route makers organized around a staple flow that repeated every season, because settlements could not do without it. So the name is evidence, not poetry. When a major road is named for a crystal, the crystal is already organizing bodies, armies, and markets. In medieval and early modern northern Europe, salting herring let fishers and merchants preserve protein so the catch could move inland and across the Baltic without rotting. Economic histories of the Hanseatic League and of the North Sea fisheries treat that salted herring as a core trade good. Fresh herring spoils within days. Salt draws water from the flesh and from the microbes that would break it down, an osmotic barrier that slows decay. Curers packed the fish in barrels with the mineral and turned a short seasonal run into storable food. Merchants then shipped the barrels from coastal grounds toward inland towns and Baltic markets, where the protein still held. Without salt, the haul stayed local and brief. With it, surplus became cargo that paid for boats, warehouses, and regular exchange. Salt had to be obtained in bulk for that system to work, from coastal pans and from inland brine centers that fed the curing trade, including the well-documented works at Lüneburg in the Hanseatic sphere. Exact barrel totals differ from port to port and century to century, so the scale is best left qualitative. The method made storable surplus possible at commercial volume. Maritime and medieval economic history returns to the same chain for that reason. The crystal did not merely season the fish. It decided whether the catch could leave the shore as wealth or stay as waste. Whoever controlled salt controlled that line between profit and spoilage. The French crown under the Ancien regime taxed salt through the gabelle, and the rate and the rules changed sharply from one province to the next. In districts of the Grande Gabelle, households met a steep official price and often a forced minimum purchase. A short ride into another fiscal zone could mean lighter dues or a looser monopoly. That split was policy, not accident. Every kitchen needed salt to season the pot and to cure meat and fish for the months when fresh food ran short, so the crown could count on steady demand. Royal administration sold the mineral through licensed warehouses, graniers à sel, and stationed collectors to mine the accounts and the scales. Standard fiscal maps and administrative histories of pre-revolutionary France show the kingdom cut into zones of the Grande Gabelle, the Petite Gabelle, and provinces of redemption or partial exemption. The paperwork of rates, franchises, and seizures survives in the royal and provincial archives that historians of French taxation still use. Where the bite was hardest, people carried illicit sacks across internal borders after dark, boots quiet on farm tracks, crystals hidden under cloth. The period called that trade façonnage. Patrols watched the roads between high-tax and low-tax country. Seizures and penalties stacked up in local court rolls. When communities wrote their grievances for the Estates General in 1789, the Cahiers de doléances repeatedly named the gabelle. Specialists in Ancien regime fiscal politics treat that complaint as broad and documented. They do not treat salt alone as the cause of 1789. The chain is plainer. A necessity priced by law at different rates turned the jar in the cupboard into a daily measure of unfairness. A family measuring salt for the brine barrel or the soup pot was also measuring what the state took from ordinary life. Tax and necessity unevenly and private cupboards become political terrain. Every human body needs sodium chloride to keep its internal fluid stable. The crystal is not optional seasoning. It is a regulated physiological requirement. Outside every cell sits extracellular fluid whose volume and osmolarity depend heavily on sodium. Standard medical physiology references, including Guyton and Hall's textbook of medical physiology, identify sodium as the principal extracellular cation. Water follows sodium by osmosis, so total body sodium largely sets how much fluid bathes the tissues. Nerve and muscle cells fire by opening membrane channels that let sodium rush inward along its electrochemical gradient. Without that gradient, action potentials fail and signaling stops. The kidneys hold the balance. Blood is filtered at the glomeruli. Tubular cells then reabsorb or excrete sodium according to need. Two hormone systems do much of the fine control. Aldosterone from the adrenal cortex increases sodium reabsorption when body sodium is low. Antidiuretic hormone, also called vasopressin, adjusts water retention so sodium concentration stays inside a narrow range. Sweat, urine, and the gut all lose sodium. Dietary salt must replace those losses or the internal environment drifts. Severe deprivation shrinks circulating volume. Excess loads pressure and edema. Both ends are clinical problems treated in nephrology, not matters of flavor preference. The mechanism is filters, transporters, and endocrine axes, consensus human physiology simplified here only in its detail. That is why attacks on crystals could reach every kitchen. Rhodes, herring casks, and Gabel ledgers all rested on the same non-negotiable fact. Empires could price the mineral because no household could opt out of sodium balance. In 1930, Mohandas Gandhi led a march to the coastal village of Dandi in Gujarat and made salt from seawater in open defiance of the British Salt Acts. Those laws restricted private production and levied taxes on the mineral across colonial India. British salt legislation treated manufacture as a guarded government domain and raised the price of crystals every kitchen used for cooking and curing. Coastal people who simply evaporated brine without a license broke the statute. Gandhi chose that particular crime because it criminalized a universal household act grounded in bodily need. On March 12th, he left Sabarmati Ashram with companions and walked for weeks to the Arabian Sea. On April 6th at Dandi, he and supporters lifted salt earth, boiled seawater, and produced forbidden crystals in public view. The gesture was material as well as symbolic. It attacked monopoly control over the same sodium that extracellular fluid, nerve impulses, and circulating volume already required. Villagers along the coast needed no lecture. They lived the necessity daily. Arrests and seizures followed under colonial salt authority, and others repeated the simple act of drawing salt from the ocean. Gandhi's published accounts, British India Office and provincial administrative files, and contemporary Indian and British newspapers document the route, the date, and the illegal manufacture. Historians still debate the campaign's long-term weight inside the independence movement, yet the occurrence itself is not in serious dispute. A handful of white crystals became mass politics because the law had touched what everybody already required. By the late 19th century, the same sodium chloride that filled Roman carts and coastal salt pans entered electrochemical plants as brine. Electrolysis split the dissolved salt into chlorine gas, sodium hydroxide, and hydrogen, the chlor-alkali process that became structural feedstock for industry across Europe and North America. In a chlor-alkali cell, concentrated brine takes a direct current. At the anode, chloride ions give up electrons and rise as pale green chlorine gas. At the cathode, water yields hydrogen and hydroxide. Sodium ions stay in solution as caustic soda. Early commercial practice used mercury cells associated with Hamilton Castner and Karl Kellner in the 1890s. Later diaphragm and membrane cells kept the streams apart without the same mercury circuit. Plant floors smelled of wet salt and sharp gas. Pipes carried chlorine toward waterworks and toward intermediates for plastics and solvents. Caustic liquor went to soap kettles, paper pulp digesters, and the countless neutralization steps that keep modern manufacture running. Standard chemical engineering histories of the industry treat those three products not as curiosities but as pillars of the industrial chemistry that expanded through the 20th century. The crystal that once only cured herring or seasoned a pot now fed continuous chains of production. Roman staple Rhodes, North Sea surplus, the unequal Gabel, the sodium balance every kidney maintains, the illegal pans at Dandi, and brine electrolysis do not form a list of separate marvels. Taken together, they resolve one claim. Salt's power never came from exotic scarcity. It came from non-negotiable daily need, So whoever controlled the crystals, the pans, the taxes, or the electrochemical cells held leverage over ordinary life. The seasoning was never trivial. It was a quiet lever on bodies, budgets, empires, and factories. The story ends where it began, with a common crystal that shaped what people could move, store, pay, endure, defy, and build.